When learning a language, we all encounter the same problem at some point, trying to have a meaningful conversation and just sounding like a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old or a toddler.
그림자 손으로
그림자 손으로
그림자 손으로
그림자 손으로 그림자 Okay. 그림자. I know how you feel. I'm Sonia. I've been learning languages since I was 13 years old, and I've encountered this problem many times before. Have you? Where after months of studying, late nights spent reading, trying to understand the language, you get a phone call, you speak to a friend, and that conversation goes terribly wrong. And then a simple phone conversation leads to feelings of shame, embarrassment, and wanting to hide in your room and never come out again. I've been there. This is all about understanding Korean and being able to make sense of what's going on around you, but not being able to speak the things you want to say when you want to say them. Luckily, I'm here to give you the 3 main reasons that this happens and a step-by-step guide on how to fix it. Let's begin. Speaking a new language is special. You can make new friends, you can get job opportunities, you can even meet the love of your life. But here lies the first problem. You're thinking too much and too slow to hold a meaningful conversation. Let me tell you a secret about thinking. Thinking is not the first step in your mind. Before that come concepts. That's how you can know how you're feeling without remembering the word for how you're feeling, or how you can know that you're hungry without thinking, I'm hungry today. It's how you know that right now there are 2 things on screen without you specifically thinking, there are 2 things on screen right now. When we speak in our native language, we can speak very fast, very quickly, instantly actually, in excitement, in anger, in happiness, in sadness. And we don't have to think about the grammar steps to do that, or recall vocabulary at every point. That comes from practice. And we can trust that if we know what we want to say, that the words will come out well enough to communicate that meaning. But what a lot of learners do is they get stuck in their mind trying to arrange the perfect sentence and the perfect structure and get the most appropriate word for the situation. And that can make us overly self-aware and hyper-fixated on mistakes. This in turn makes talking to people more daunting and have a higher barrier to entry, which means less practice. You get less good. So what do we really want to do? What is our goal? Essentially, a good place to get to in our language learning journey is to converse in a way where we are thinking in the target language without having to think too much about what it is we want to say or how to say it. Simply put, we know what we want to say and we just say it. Which brings us to the second problem that learners face, which is passive versus active learning. Now, if you saw my previous video, which has a 1-year study guide for Korean learning and applies to any language, then you will have heard me mention this before. The reason you can watch a television show or an interview or a film and understand what's going on is because you have a lot of context cues. And also, someone else has done the thinking for you on how to make the right sentence. So when someone presents the right grammar form and the right words, and then shows you a matching picture on the screen, it's easy to put together the word to the picture, word to the picture, and make up what's going on. Having conversations with others, however, means that we have to decipher this information ourselves. From all the possible grammar endings we could use, from all the possible vocabulary we have at our disposal, we have to make the choice in a very quick amount of time to choose the right one and make sure it makes sense and is in the right order. These 2 processes use multiple different parts of thinking and reasoning and logic together in different combinations. So you need to be able to make mistakes, constructively learn from them, and then learn the right thing. That means making mistakes, embarrassing yourself, hopefully making friends in the process. That brings us to the third and final problem, which usually gets in the way of a lot of things, but specifically language learning. And that is fear. We're taught to be embarrassed about making mistakes. In school, are taught that getting an F should never happen, and that F stands for failure. Therefore, if you get an F, you got a failure, and you are a failure, and that is terrible and it's the worst thing in the world. And it's a huge disservice to humanity that they have tried to teach us to think this way, because that's not how this works. I'm going to tell you right now what failure kind of really is. Failure comes from the root word, I don't know how to say it, but it's from Old French, faillir, which means to just about do something. When I hear that I failed, I feel a part of me shuts down. I feel a bit rejected. I feel I did something, I presented something of myself, and that kind of got thrown back at me and was not worthy or something like that. And all these huge stalling mechanisms can ensue. But actually, if we see the base of the word meaning to just about have done something, then that means that you didn't fail, but you didn't quite succeed on that try. And that is the approach we should take with our language learning. And that's something not many people will get. They'll laugh, they'll make fun, they will be confused, maybe they'll be offended. But it's on you to know, okay, that was a mistake, what was I meant to do instead? And then you just practice that instead. Take it easy. So now, those are the three main problems. And they're not too crazy, are they? And they don't seem too hard to fix. Well, I'm going to give you a step-by-step sort of guide on how to get better, basically. So, when it comes to your study, I want you to moderate a good level of input versus output in your study sessions. More often than not, try not to have too much input in one lesson or too much output in another lesson. Write down what your focus is for that lesson. Am I doing more input or am I doing more output in this lesson? So in a session, for example, you can choose a topic, practice vocabulary lists that are relevant to that topic, memorize them, learn some grammar structures that you want to practice using or practice some ones that you already know about. And then practice putting together sentences, grammar, and that vocabulary. Say them out loud, write them down, read them. All these different ways will help you train the different circuits in your mind to really be able to recall that next time you need it in conversation. Think to yourself, what would I say with these things? And then make those sentences. And when you don't know how to make a sentence, Google it. When you learn something new, make a sentence with it a couple of times. Ask yourself questions in Korean. Try and answer them in Korean. Again, if you don't know how to answer, you just Google it, find out, and then make multiple of the sentences. For example, like 뭐 하고 있어요? And then you could be like 운동하고. What else can I make with that? 수업하고, or something like that. I don't even know if that's right, but that's the whole point. You practice. This really helps your brain form new connections. The more connections you form, the more systems you connect, the faster you'll be able to recall what you want to recall next time. And the time after that, and the time after that. It's a lot of fun. So think, new knowledge, many reps, in new and different patterns. For example, you can flashcard your vocab while you're on the train or when you're in the queue on your smartphone. You can practice your grammar by forming sentences in your head. One thing I do when I'm walking around the house, I like to go, I am opening my drawer, or I'm closing the fridge. And I have to think about how to make those sentences. If someone asks me what I'm doing, I can be like, oh, I've practiced this. I'm closing the fridge. I mean, you probably wouldn't say I'm closing the fridge, but that's the kind of general consensus here. When you're at home, you can listen to podcasts or interviews and practice shadowing them. I'll link a video on shadowing here or here. All of this comes together so you can recall vocab and you can recall sentences that you've built and you can recall how the native's speed was and how the native structure was when you were shadowing. And this is going to help you speak out loud at a native speed with confidence. To build on this, the next step would be obviously to talk to other people. And you can do this when you're confident, but it's always best to do this a little bit before you're confident. And there's many ways. Speak to a language partner on language apps like HelloTalk or Tandem. I personally use HelloTalk, both of which I've linked in the description. And you can also get an Italki tutor or a Preply tutor. Right now I'm using Preply, but I have used Italki in the past and I'd recommend both. I'll link those both in the description down below as well. Having a language partner or having a language tutor means being forced to get out of our own way and actually speak, actually use the language. Here's actual audio of me with my Preply tutor embarrassing myself, essentially, in the name of education, because I care. Can you read it first? I'll copy.
레슨 벌써 정리해서 발표 안 돼요?
Can you read it slower? Yeah, so basically that happens, you know? You're not going to be perfect. I'm not perfect. It's fine. We move. That's how that works. Here is a secret hack that I'm going to tell you about. If you download HelloTalk, they have a thing on there called voice rooms. Now, voice rooms are where multiple people get in a group call and have a conversation all together. This is a very low pressure way to get into conversation. A bunch of other strangers who are also feeling just as awkward as you are. No one's better, no one's a teacher, no one is staring each other in the face like a language partner. Everyone's just side by side, just in a room. Either just listen idly to the conversation that's going on, add your own comments when you have something to say, and then you can just watch for the rest of it. Do you get embarrassed or shy? You can just leave. and no one will care. It won't be rude, it won't be offensive. It's a bunch of strangers anyway, there's no obligation to stay. It's easy to say to not be shy and embarrassed when talking to people, but sometimes it's just really hard. So if that's a problem that you're facing, that is a really good tip. So these are all the tips, including the voice room tip, which I haven't heard anyone mention. If you think these are going to help you, please consider subscribing. It makes me smile every time I see someone subscribes. I really do hope it helps. Just to summarize, in terms of thinking, we want to avoid hyperfixating on mistakes or structure, and that comes from practice. Practice in focused study sessions, specific vocabulary and grammar, practice building sentences, write them, speak them, hear them, read them, which is both active and passive listening. Practice speaking to yourself around the house. In shadow, you can form sentences in your mind and then say them out loud. Get a language partner. You can get a language tutor, join voice room, and these are all very useful ways to practice speaking. If you want to speak faster, with more language, more vocabulary and grammar available to you, study the vocabulary, study the grammar, practice building the sentences, and then practice using the sentences. It's the best way you're going to download and install that into your mind. And remember, in terms of thinking, the more connections you can build in your mind, things you can work together, the more different patterns you can build with language, the quicker it's going to be to fetch those when you need them. So nothing too hard. I know you can do it. I believe in you. I know you're going to have a lot of fun doing these things as well. Pick topics that you like, that you enjoy, and it'll be easier to learn. And just to let you know, here at this channel, I'm on a mission to build a better world. I believe love and knowledge are two powerful tools. This YouTube channel, I believe we can really make a difference in our language learning journeys and in helping the world with a powerful community. I have put together a KoFi page where we as a community can directly contribute to refugee, education and healthcare projects around the world in underdeveloped communities. So if you might want to support these causes, check out the KoFi link in my description to contribute to those. If you want to support my channel and support me, you can also do that there. But honestly, supporting the channel just means like, subscribing and letting me know what you think in the comments. These really help the channel. I think together we could truly make a difference. I made it to the end of the video. And if you did, comment the word pineapple. Love you. Bye.